Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. And I would like to talk about human behavior in our work. Are we all humans? Who is? Who is not? Just always check the statistics, huh? Who is? Anyway, so I'm an electronics engineer, hard engineering. How did I become an amateur psychologist in projects? Because I observed so many things that happen, that we do, that could be a risk for the success of a project. So I want to share some of that with you. So systems are designed, maintained, used, tolerated or not by people, right? People are always a part of the system we deliver. If it's a software system, there's always a user, a person using it. He's part of the system. And if we don't model that part right, there may be a problem. Now, people react quite predictably. Is that correct? Do you believe it? No? Well, they often react differently for what we think they should do. So it seems they react unpredictable because they do differently what we think they should do. But the next time they do the same. So they are predictable and we have to think, what do they really? What's really their behavior? So often, do we recognize this? We ignore human behavior, yeah. Incorrectly assume a certain behavior, yeah. Or decide how they should behave. Do we? Yeah. You should do this. Why don't you push that button? Yeah. Okay. So we must study real human behavior instead of assumed behavior. Because apparently it's wrong, it's different. Because you said they don't behave as you expect. Apparently it's different. Now we can talk about users of our system, but let's first look at ourselves. Things we tend to do as humans, which can be a risk of the success of the work we do. Yeah? So, the last thing I forgot there was, yeah, we have to check human behavior even if we don't agree with it. You've seen that movie, 6 Days, 7 Nights? Yeah? If two people get stranded on an island, things may happen. Even if she's engaged to another guy. Things may happen. Yeah, but they shouldn't do that. Well, they're only human. Yeah? So, think about ourselves. Discipline. I'm going to give you some elements of human behavior that could be a risk of our project, of our work. Discipline. And I found in the dictionary, control of wrong inclinations. Yeah? We tend to do things easy. If nobody's watching, it's difficult to keep the discipline. We know how we should do things better. But if nobody's watching, we take shortcuts. Right? Okay. So discipline is difficult. And years ago, when I was going to talk about this at the presentation, in the shower in the morning, I was thinking, I think the Bible is about discipline. I don't know anything about it, yeah, but I think religious books, they're about discipline. So in the afternoon, I did my talk, and I said, I think that the Bible is about discipline. And one guy said, yes, Romans 7:19, and he showed me the book the next day, and it says, the good that I want to do, I do not. You know how it continues? The bad that I do not want to do, I do. So he says, therefore, we are evil. Because it's written there, we do the wrong things. I said, well, this I understand, the rest I don't want to repeat, because I assume that we want to do the right thing, so let's see what we can do about that. Yeah? So, some things we can do. helping each other, watching over the shoulder. Now, if you are working on something, yeah, maybe watching your screen or thinking, and somebody is watching over your shoulder, do you like that? Do you like that? No, it feels like policing, especially if it's your boss, right? Yeah. So, but once you agree that discipline is difficult, and that it is easier if somebody is watching you doing things, then it's easier to keep the discipline. How about inviting people to watch over your shoulder? Because they may see something that you take a shortcut, or they make you avoid taking the shortcut. So instead of saying, go away, don't police me, you invite people. Invite your colleagues. Watch over each other's shoulder. I was in a small company where they had one-person projects. And we said, let's have 2 people doing 2 one-person projects so that they can watch over each other's shoulder and keep the discipline in doing the right thing. Rapid success. If I coach people, yeah, I say, do it 3 weeks for me. And then after, I know that within 2 or 3 weeks, they know doing more discipline works for them. And then there's a chance that they keep doing it. And making mistakes. Don't help people always to avoid mistakes. If they insist in their what you think is the wrong way, let them do it. And they hit the tree, and there is pain. And with pain, there can be gain. No pain, no gain. So the moment they hit the tree, you have about half an hour to say, what can we do about it? Because after half an hour, the pain is already going. Yeah. Okay. Another element of human behavior, of our human behavior, I just assume, I first saw all this in myself, then I looked around and I think, I'm not that special. Yeah. Is intuition. What's intuition? Intuition is how we automatically react on a situation. Yeah? And we get intuition in our mind by experience. Yeah? Nowadays, we don't have this stove in the room anymore where your mother could put your hand on, okay, put your hand there, oh, you shouldn't do that. Intuitively never touch a stove anymore. Still, we can do it maybe with the iron or so. And then some people say, yeah, but instinct, okay, instinct is what you get before, when you are born, it's already there. And intuition is what you get by experience during your life. How to automatically react on situations. Now, if intuition would be perfect, how to handle situations, everything we do would be perfect, right? Is everything we do perfect? No. So apparently, there are situations where our intuition points us in the wrong direction. Example, I'm sitting on my desk, I'm thinking about something, how to do it. My boss, he knows he should watch over my shoulder from time to time. Well, I don't have a boss apart from my wife, but that's another story. My boss said, what are you doing? I said, I'm thinking. You know what he said? Do something. Yeah? His intuition puts him in this direction, which can be completely wrong. Interesting thing, it's free. It's a free tool. We all have it. But the other side of the same medal is, it's so difficult to switch it off. It's very strong. Yeah? And sometimes, as I said, it points us in the wrong direction. So, there was some research done by a Dutch guy, and he gave, first I think he did it with automobiles, but it was too expensive. So he said, here are several posters. Can you choose the poster you want to put in your living room, because that's the one you want? So there were 10 posters, and you have 5 minutes to decide. Okay, looking, I'll take that one. And then 1 month later, he called the guys, is it still hanging there? Do you still like your choice? Well, most people like that choice. Then, other experiment, he said, here are the posters. You can take as long as you want to decide which one to take. Take your time. Maybe you discuss with people, well, why is this better and that better. They took them home. 1 month later, many people took them off already. Interesting. So intuitive choice sometimes is better than logical thinking about it. But then they did a third experiment. They said, you can take some time to look at it. Then we're going to do something completely different, like playing cards or so. And then after that, you decide. Those people were most happy. And then, well, you see it already. Yeah? We know that. Let's sleep over it. Yeah? So your intuition has been working where you were doing something else. Your intuition, your subconsciousness is very powerful in making reasoning much better than your logical thinking. That was the end of that experiment, the result of the experiment. Interesting. So that's my small advertisement. I coach projects to deliver better results in less time. So coaching is about redirecting intuition. Can you do this a few weeks for me? And once people become used to doing it that way, I can go. Okay, other thing. A friend of mine, pharmacist, he told me this story. In the pharmacy, they had sleeping pills and activation pills. I don't know what that means, but yeah, let's just assume that they exist. The sleeping pills in the red box and activation pills in the blue box. Guess what happened? From time to time, patients got the wrong box. Why? Because red is usually an active color and blue is a quiet color, I suppose. So what did they do? And they never made a mistake anymore. So, who was wrong? The intuition of the person who gave the wrong thing, or the designer of the boxes? So, I have many mantras. You can go to my website and see a lot of mantras. And one of them is, the user is always right, even if he's not. Can you work with that as a tester? The user is always right, even if he is not. An example. People were designing a new parking system. They knew everything about parking systems, but they said, we have so much spaghetti, let's start all over again. Which is very dangerous, but they did it successfully. So, and what do we have at the end of a sprint? A demo? Okay, never do demos, but that's another story. We can talk at the bar comp later. What to do instead. But, okay, so they had the demo. And they showed about the payment system. And then the R&D boss was sitting there and he said, can I do something? They said, this is a demo. You're not supposed to do anything. We show you what we did in this sprint. I said, well, I mean, later when the system is out there, you're not there to handheld the computer. So isn't it useful to just observe what happens if he starts testing your system? Okay. Now, okay, they told him, can you type your credit card number here in this box? Okay, so he typed his name, Wim van Leeuwen. Crash! Blue screen, or whatever. Yeah? They said, yeah, your credit card number, not your name. The user is always right, even if he's not. 20% of the software is there to make the computer do what it should do. 80% of the software is there to make the computer not do what it should not do. Right? And that's not described. That's not in the story. That's not in the requirements. That 80%, right? And that's part of your job? No. It's part of the designer's job, of the developer's job. You only have to check that they did their work properly. Okay. Communication. Yeah, some people say, what are the most important things in project? The most important three things? Communication, communication, communication. Yeah. Okay. Bang! I hear a noise, and then behind me is an accident. So I turn around, I see the scene there. And what happens then in my mind? In my mind starts a whole story, how the accident came about. Maybe I see some braking tracks there from the car. Yeah? And in my fantasy, I start making up a story about what happened. And if I'm a witness, I tell that story. But that story is based on basic concepts already in my mind. And because maybe I've seen an accident on television, maybe I've been in one. So in my history, I created concepts in my mind. And in this case, there is this instance of accident where I use those concepts and add a little bit. And that's the story I think that happened. I didn't even see it. It happened behind my back. Yeah, that's what we do. So witnesses tell their truth. They don't lie. They tell the story they made up in their mind, just like you made it up in your mind. And their history is all different. So the starting concepts of thinking are different. Therefore, their stories are different. Very simple example. The guys saw the garage at the corner, and the ladies saw the fashion shop behind the damaged car. Everybody, our senses are very bad. We have what we think we see, it's inside. Yeah? And all we do is getting with our senses some more information to construct what we think is happening or has happened. So, just as an example, for communication with words. We use words, I throw sounds to you. Yeah? In my mind, I have some things I want to get into your mind, and I try to get it into your mind by throwing sounds to you, forming words in a, to me, alien language, and you have an alien language. My history, your history is different. So, do you think we really understand each other? Will what I have in my mind really come into your mind exactly as I think I mean? No. Another interesting thing is the mind is happy with quite fuzzy concepts. Yeah? You said you're going to make a plan. So you come back, you come with your plan. I said, you have your plan? Yes. Do you know exactly what to do? Yes, I know exactly what to do. Okay, where is it? In my mind. Okay. Now, if you know exactly what you're going to do and it's in your mind, can you get it out of your mind and write it down? That's why I like big whiteboards. Can you write it down? You know what happens? If you try to get it out of your mind and put it on the whiteboard, you start writing, you start changing and moving, adding. I thought you knew exactly. You recognize that? Yeah? Now, fuzziness in our mind is probably a survival strategy. Because the fuzziness can create innovation. Because the mistakes in our thinking, suddenly you recognize something new. So it has a function. But it can be dangerous. So, have you ever had that? You get stuck in your thinking, and then you go to a colleague, and you say, you start explaining. And suddenly you say, now I know. The other person didn't even know what you were talking about. Yeah? Didn't say anything. Yeah? Now, what have you been doing? You have been emptying your fuzzy mind into words, into sentences, to make it, even for yourself, more clear. And suddenly you see it. You have so many times that people are stuck with a bug for more than a year. Have you seen that in your teams? Sometimes bugs, they never find. They try this, they try that, and it's still there. Yeah, in a German accounting project with VAT calculation. So for more than a year they had to give a thing, sorry, we can't calculate their VAT. Now why do I have accounting software? Anyway, so getting it out of your mind by saying it, or in this case I said, okay, this bug, can you make a drawing on the whiteboard? Just the situation, what's happening there? And they said, yeah, but I can't draw. I said, I don't mind. Draw something, even if it's wrong. Yeah? Because you will see where it is wrong, and others can help you to see where it is wrong, because they can't see in your mind, but the moment you try to get it out of your mind, we all can see, and we can help you. Every time I do that, you can try it with your guys, every time we do that, within 10, maximum 20 minutes, they say, wow, that's the root cause. It's not just what's going wrong, no, that's why it is going wrong. And in a week it is solved. Every time again. And my suggestion is try it. Some people think I'm expensive as a coach, but they wasted more than a year trying, and in a week it's solved. So writing it down is explaining it to paper, in text or in a drawing. Yeah? And when I wrote this sentence, I suddenly thought, why we don't like to make documentation? Who makes documentation? Okay, at least some. Who doesn't? Just to check the statistics. Okay, you're not fooling me too much. That's good. So, do you like to make documentation? Some do because you know why. Yeah? Okay. Now, once you recognize the fuzziness in our mind and the risk of that fuzziness, and you know that when you have to write it down, that you can see the problems in your thinking, yeah, and get rid of at least some of those problems. Yeah? So suddenly I realized that making documents is not in the first place for others, it's in the first place for ourselves to unfuzzy our thinking. Yeah? So that others can also see the fuzziness, and that together we have a discussion to get doing more the right thing and less the wrong things. But also I realized why we don't like to make documents. Because we think in a fuzzy mind is completely clear, and when we have to write it down, it's so difficult. If it's written, it can be discussed and changed. Fortunately, they can't look in your mind. But if they can't look in your mind and you don't get it out, nobody can help you, not even yourself. Vocal communication evaporates immediately. Email communication evaporates in a few days. Yeah. Write it down. And this is what my father used to tell me. Yeah. Communication is talking as near as possible past each other. Don't even think you talk to each other. Try to talk as near as possible past each other. Remember, your history is different from the other person. Yeah. Don't assume that you understand. So I had this thing. I was sitting on a table and there was a supplier and there was a customer. And we're discussing what the supplier should deliver in 2 weeks, etc. And after some time, they were going to stand up and go back to their companies and come back in 2 weeks. Yeah. Now I was just sitting there observing, and in my mind I saw a text balloon on top of these guys. A text balloon where it was my idea what might be in their mind based on what I heard them saying. Now guess what? In that text balloon was something different than in that text balloon. Yeah? So when they wanted to get up and go back to their work, I asked one guy, the supplier, so you are going to deliver this in 2 weeks, right? Huh? 2 weeks? No, I'm too busy. I can't. The other guy, what? Not in 2 weeks? I thought we decided. Yeah? So, communication past each other. So then I said, please sit down again. Check out that you are thinking about the same thing instead of what you think you're thinking about the same thing. Yeah. They took another 20 minutes, had some phone calls with their company people to make some arrangements to make sure that what they said could be done. 20 minutes later they left. 2 weeks later they came back. Everybody happy. Communication. Okay, that were just two people. You're working in a team, right? Think what happens there. Everybody has a different text balloon, even with the same words. So don't assume you understand each other. You have to check, double check, and it saves time. Okay, a third element. I'm taking a little bit extra time, but so maybe we can skip a few things later. Perception. Perception. If you hear that word, even in English, that's a little bit more complicated. And then I looked in the dictionary. That's what I usually do with these words, especially because I'm Dutch. It's not my native language. So, quick, acute, and intuitive cognition. Do we know more now? Quick, okay. Intuitive, we talked about intuition. Cognition, to recognize things. So actually it is our subconsciousness observing things and using that, bypassing our teller here of logic. Yeah. Oxford Dictionary says intuitive understanding and insight. That's easier to follow. Intuitive understanding and insight. But basically how our subconsciousness observes things and starts processing it. Intuition. So what people say, logic, and what they think is not always the same. Yeah. The head knows, but the heart decides. You know the Saturday shopping? Yeah. I'm only going to window shop. And in the end you come back with all those bags. So there was some research here, academic research. And I took a few sentences out of that research. And one was, hidden emotions are often drivers of behavior. We're talking about human behavior. Yeah? Hidden emotions, they're in their subconsciousness. Customers who said they wanted lots of different ice cream flavors from which to choose still tended to buy those that were fundamentally vanilla. So they did some exercise with people. They said, here's a survey and with flavors of ice cream. Now if you would buy the ice cream, which flavors would you like most? Check. Okay. The next day, they said, today we are going to the ice cream place and you're going to spend your own money and you have to eat it yourself. And basically, most people bought vanilla and different from what they put in their survey the other day. The mind and the heart deciding. Yeah. So, what's the value of marketing research if you read this? Yeah. They go to the market, they ask people, if we have this product, would you like it? Oh, yeah, so I would like it. Would you buy it the next day? No. Yeah. So don't believe. Also, if you're a product owner or you're a customer or your stakeholder, whoever you're talking with, if they tell you, can you deliver that? Your first question is, why? Why would you need that? Etc. The 5 times why. Don't believe what they say. Probably it's something else. And if you don't ask these questions, you're probably going to make a great solution for the wrong problem. You've seen that? Do you, from time to time, make a great solution for the wrong problem? Okay. And we keep doing it, right? Because we're only human. Okay. It can't be done. They won't allow it. I was with this software team, and they were in Dublin, Ireland. And the main customers were in England. So I asked the guys, did you ever go to your users, observe them? That's the story about demos are bad, because don't demo. Yeah, you give it to them, you zip your mouth, handcuff your hands, and you observe. So you go to the users, zip your mouth, don't say anything, handcuff your hands, observe what they are doing. You will learn so much. Yeah. So I said, did you ever go there? Go there? My boss doesn't allow us to go to England, all of us. Yeah, that's too expensive. I said, did you ask? Don't assume your assumptions are wrong. Are right. Probably they are wrong. Yeah. So, thank you. I went to the boss. I said, can they go? These guys go to England? He said, of course, they should go. Yeah, but they never asked. They assumed that management wouldn't allow it. Recognize that? Human behavior. Don't assume, check. Don't assume, check. Don't assume, check. Testers, did you ever observe the users of the software you're testing? Who did? Go there and observe. This way, that way. Never touch, because then you don't see what they really struggle with. Yeah? Who did not go? Just checking the statistics. Who went? Who did not go? You're fooling me. I'm not going to waste more time. The user is always right, even if he's not. So observe what they're doing, and they are doing something completely different from what you assume. You learn so much. Zip your mouth, handcuff your hands, and observe. Because once the software is there without you, you're not there to handheld the computer to let it do what it should do. It should handle everything on its own. Excuses, excuses, excuses. We are from childhood. We are trained to make excuses, right? We are so good at it. Your mother tells you you have to be home at 8 o'clock. And at 9 o'clock, you had all the reasons why you could never be at home at 8 o'clock, right? We are so good at it. And actually, it's just the protection of our pain. We know we did something wrong, and we have all the excuses why it was something else that caused it. And for these things, and like many of these things I'm talking about, I have a special stamp. I call it the bullshit stamp. Bullshit. Yeah? I explain this in my teams when I start with them, and afterwards when they come with their bullshit excuses, why this couldn't happen, or why blah, 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 I only have to do this. Because it's bullshit. Yeah? At the fatal date, any excuse why we didn't succeed is in vain. We failed. And I love that word. You like the word failure? It creates pain. And with pain, we are open to improvement. No pain, no gain. That's my bullshit stamp. Yeah? Bullshit. The first time I wanted, it was at Eurostar. Yeah, I had this, and Dorothy Graham, some of you may know her, she was a reviewer, and she said, "You can't use that picture." But I explained why it was there, and then she said, "Okay, I understand." Yeah. So, and of course, then you say, yeah, I say bullshit. Yeah, but we really couldn't do anything about it. Bullshit again. You could have done so much more. You're just telling yourself that you couldn't. We are so good at excuses. Every day we see and recognize a problem earlier, we have a day more to do something about it. Right? Don't push it away. So, the magic sentence here is, If anybody complains about something that can't be done, what are we going to do about it? Remember that sentence. What are we going to do about it? And then you work with clever people. They will have a suggestion. Doesn't have to be the best, but that's not okay, not a problem. Yeah, at least you're moving forward. So I love failure because it makes us vulnerable, and then we want to get rid of that pain and do something about it. But never ever say, you failed. What do you feel if you failed? Yeah, resistance, and yeah, you want to fight. No, we failed because we didn't help you not to fail, right? We are a team. It's difficult. I also have to remind me from time to time, it's not you failed, we failed. And it saves you so much energy, which you have to overcome after you have slipped from your tongue. You failed. No, we failed. You feel the difference? Human behavior. Okay. This is a QA conference, but it seems that some people think QA is testing. Now, testing is a tiny part of QA, but that's another story. We can talk at the bootcamp about that. But what's the aim of testing? Yeah? Well, one of the aims is being done as soon as development is done, right? Is that possible? Is that possible? Anybody saying no? Yeah? Well, okay, almost. Yeah? In the last day, you test the thing they develop in the last day. But don't wait until they're done. Waterfall, that's ancient stuff, isn't it? So, typical excuses, do you recognize? Did you use any of these? Developers are always late? Bullshit. Yeah? Well, at least if I'm coaching the developers, they won't. Yeah? I plan to do a bootcamp thing tomorrow. If anybody wants to learn how to plan and never be late anymore, never need an excuse anymore, we can do an exercise there. I'll put that on and be welcome. So, developers don't take us seriously. Recognize that? Bullshit. If I coach them, they asked you, we are not perfect, you see things differently than I see, please tell me where I'm not yet perfect. Right? That's what they should do. If they don't, they need some coaching. The developers don't inject too many, enough defects. Yeah, the talk in the previous time I was here was how to move towards zero defects. You can look at the video. Yeah? And I'm serious about that. Zero defect is possible, but we can talk about that later if you don't believe me. Yeah? So once people are, let's say, almost not injecting any defect anymore, testers come to me, Niels, when I tried that with one project very clearly, Niels, something weird is going on. We don't find defects anymore. I said, isn't that what we want? Yeah? But now testing becomes really a challenge. How can you prove that there actually are no defects? Which is impossible. But that's another story. Are you the bearers of bad news? I heard Dorothy Graham saying that. That's the end note of some conference. Yeah, we are bearers of bad news. They don't like to hear what we say, right? Come on. The developers put the quality good or bad in, and if it's bad, you only tell them what you found. Is that bad news? I think that's great news. I want to hear that. I want to know where I'm not yet perfect, so that I can starve you. If I'm perfect, thank you. If I'm perfect, we don't need you anymore. Oh, don't worry. That will take some time. But it means if you feel that they don't like you, and they are actually your customer, in another talk I will ask who's the customer of development. I don't have time to do that. But the real customer of testing is development. Because they have to learn to be perfect, not to inject any defect. And if you should check that they didn't. And if they do, feedback so that they learn never to do the same again. Did you ever find a second time a similar defect from your developers? The first time it's the developer's fault. The second time it's your fault. Because you didn't help them to prevent ever to do the same again. That's not testing, that's QA. So find out what you really have to do. That's another talk. All bullshit. Helping development to be successful. That's what we are for as QA. I have only 1 minute, so you can download from my website. I'll put it there tonight. Ignore the first reaction, blah, blah, blah. Typical behavior in Minsk. I was coaching a project, well, actually doing development in Dublin. And we also asked a company in Minsk to do some parallel development, and I had to oversee them. So every week we had a Skype call with the guys, with the project manager and the architect. It was a hardware development project. And they were sitting there. So the boss and me, we were sitting at the other side and started to ask questions. I mean, why do you have this Skype call? They were just waiting for us to ask questions. I said, guys, I have my project here, you have your project there. I expect you guys to come up with the questions we are going to ask you, to come up with the answers that you're going to give, so that when we have the meeting, you say, these are the questions we think you are going to ask, and this is what we already found as an answer. And besides, we still have a few questions, which they could have asked the day before, of course. Yeah? So it took several weeks for me to push them into, guys, this is your project. You take responsibility, you run it, and you show us how we progress well. Because I have my own project. I don't have time to run your project as well. You're the project manager and the architect. And later they said, well, they moved in that way. So after a few weeks, they started to take ownership and doing that. And then later we discussed that. Why was that? They said, well, we had to learn how to work with people like you. Because before, we only worked with Russian clients. I don't know whether you recognize something of this, but apparently there's a cultural difference in at least the people they had worked for, that they just told them what to do. So I expected us to tell them what to do. I said, you're clever guys, you know what to do. Okay. So, several elements of human behavior. There are some more, but I hope it gives you some idea also to dig into your behavior and your peers' behavior and think about that. Yeah? And it's recognizing and understanding our behavior is the start of doing something about it. No, we can't fight our genes. We can't do something about it. We have to do something with it. Discipline is known for thousands of years. Remember the Bible. It's known for thousands of years. And who am I to ask for discipline? Forget it. So, accepting that, accepting the behavior that's in our genes, and then see what can we still do with it. And QA to do a better job helping others to be perfect, because QA is not about finding bugs, it's about prevention. Our problems are not the real problem. The real problem is that we don't do something about it. Every day we see a problem earlier, we have a day more to do something about it, and remember the assumptions. You better assume that a lot of your assumptions are wrong, and you should check. Thank you. Some assumptions.
Hello, thanks for the presentation, Niels. That was quite interesting. So I'm Claudio from Dashlane, and I would like to ask you how we can learn to model and communicate the ideas that exist in our fuzzy mind. You mentioned that, and I agree with you. But are there some techniques that you know Because if I'm writing something or talking to a colleague, are there like some shortcuts or some things to be on the lookout for? Thank you.
Okay. Writing it down to the best of your knowledge. Start writing even if you don't know really what to write, because it will be so much quicker. That's one thing. I always want very big whiteboards. I come into meeting rooms without whiteboards. In the accounting software project, they removed the whiteboards because they said we are now doing agile, and therefore they had cloth boards where they could put in pins. And the whiteboard, you're not allowed to put the pin in. So I love whiteboards. It took me 6 weeks to get whiteboards there, because the project manager said yes and didn't do anything. He didn't believe in it. So at some time his boss asked me, Niels, how's it going? I said, I'm still waiting for whiteboards. The same day there were whiteboards all over. Yeah? And from that moment the project manager was going to use it. Yeah? So every time techniques, if I impose a technique, people have to try to use that technique and do what they should do. So I just ask, my technique is, can you describe the problem in any way? So the accountants started making some formulas. Yeah? Some others made some diagrams. I don't mind. Just start. And by starting together, you so quickly will see things. We're all clever people, aren't we? Sorry, the others we work with are all clever people, aren't they? So just show it in front of them and they will tell you. Because our flaps are going like this if we think too much about something. Let other people come to open them. So no special techniques, just put them on the whiteboard, give them a pen, describe your problem. All fuzzy minds are now full of fuzziness. I'll be here today, tomorrow. Very important thing. Guys, do you know how I always get away with the best speaker? Because I show you this. I don't mind which color you put on. If you like to hear me the next time, you make it green. If you don't want to hear me the next time, you choose red. Whatever you choose, put it there. Make it full. Okay, we'll see who gets the best speaker this time. It worked the last time.